No, Mike, no.
That way I don't start it after we do.
Yeah, he's married to
Driscoll.
Driscoll, yeah. Driscoll's daughter, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Right.
She's not in very good shape.
She ain't, no, that's what he said. He built that new house there. And, he told me, while I was there, I don't know. It was freezing up. We had to put the back front yard together a little bit so they could get the lawn back there, to put siding up, and he said that she's on hospice, so.
No.
Yeah. It's quite a house he put up there, though.
Where did you build it at?
On south end of Pelican.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is that almost?
14 seconds. Hey. Both. Getting back down, no? We'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. It looks like we have a visitor. And you are, oh, you know this guy?
Yes. He's here for a general government class.
Oh, good. Well, welcome.
Order. Good morning.
Morning.
So do we have a approval of the agenda as in front of us?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the minutes. The last meeting.
So.
Second,
Second.
any other discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the warrant as it was sent out.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second
Discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So we got 7 minutes, and I didn't catch your first name. What was it?
Trent.
Trent. Why don't you come forward? Carl, Carl didn't tell you this would happen if we got ahead of schedule?
Pretty
So,
brave, Ken.
so you're, tell us a little bit about this class you're in and what your expectations are by attending, our board meeting, and
So
update us a little bit on that.
I have to do, it's a big government class that we talk about all of, what goes on around the US government, how it was formed, the Constitution, all of those, and then I have to do one government meeting of any kind, whether it's school board, city, township, state, or federal level. And I have to go to one of those and fill out a paper to be able to pass the class. It is a required paper.
And you've chosen the county board meeting as,
Yes, so that I didn't miss ski practice to go to the one tomorrow.
that's a good reason. So, once again, do you have any expectations, or you're obviously here to observe and did you get a copy of our agenda and kind of,
Nope, I forgot the agenda.
okay, well, there might be.
There'll be another time.
Yeah. And the other thing is, not whether it's relevant for you, our meetings are recorded and then posted on our website, on YouTube, so that is one component that our county does utilize. And so the transparency that goes along with our proceedings is, we feel, is important. And questions you have for Bill LaValley?
Nope.
Good, thank you. And if you thought you were insulated, you know, with your dad being the chief cook and bottom washer here, you know, chances are you're gonna get grilled and questioned on things. Which is good, because then you learn.
So who's your instructor for this class?
Janice Knudsen.
Okay. You want to add anything else since you have 5 minutes?
No,
Well, I appreciate you coming forward and thank you. I hope you learned, I hope you gather enough so you can be, put something in your report for your class.
thank you.
You bet.
And to get you involved, I'll chime in here a little bit, to get you involved, you know what I mean, to give you a comfort zone to do this oftener and later on in life. You kind of got an understanding, this is a great tool for kids to be involved. Great tool. It's your government. Just do it the way you see fit.
Could, start a little early on the Fish and Wildlife. I'm assuming since you're in full uniform and got a smile on your faces, that you're next. Grab another chair and move up here if you would.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning. Morning.
How's Thanksgiving?
Mr. Powers, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, sir.
Good.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Jessica Paler. I am a realty specialist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm here to present a tract for certification, the Thomas J. Welly Trust et al. Tract. It is in Township 130, range 43 West, Section 10, in the Stony Brook Township specifically. The Wellies came to us and would like to put a habitat easement property on their property. They're interested in conserving this property for future uses. They will still retain ownership of the property and will be responsible for paying taxes. They just want to make sure that the land stays, as a native habitat for future generations. They'll be able to, hunt on the property and use it for recreational activities. And they've left an area out for food plots so that they can still, do what they want on that area. We do have restrictions that they are not able to build on the easement, but they can still enjoy the land. I'm gonna open it up to Neil for any information on the management side.
Hi, Commissioners. It's good to be with all of you again. It feels like it's been quite a while since I've seen all of you. Appreciate that opportunity. All of our conservation easements are what we call working land conservation easements. And so the landowner retains some certain rights to either hay and or graze the property. And so there's still that opportunity. Not sure if this is within the cards that the Wellies foresee the use of the land, but certainly as the land passes from generation to generation or landowner to landowner, there is still some type of grass-based agriculture that can occur on the property. So in terms of management, we help support the restoration of both wetlands and grasslands. But beyond that, the responsibility for noxious weed control lies with the landowner today, will continue to lie with the landowner going forward as well. So our conservation easements are what we call limited interest. So while we are acquiring an interest of value in the property, it is certainly subservient to any easements that have come before it. So the use of the roads, whatever might be adjacent to it, we're subservient to those. Oftentimes there's some type of utility there, right? So electrical or water or those kinds of things. And so I believe all of the members of the board here have been out on one or maybe more of our tours. That is something that we like to do them every couple of years. And so we'd like to do that again with the commissioners. We would of course wait for somewhat warmer weather. But if that's something that the Mr. Chair, if you'd like to entertain that and the Board of Commissioners, I'd be happy to work with the board secretary or whomever to be able to arrange something. Probably look at June or July timeframe again. So any questions for me at all?
I got a couple questions. This is perpetual, right?
Yes,
So
sir,
it's
it is.
forever.
It is,
Right.
yes.
And then what, 1 and 2, we got a picture of it here on the board packet. Explain the 1 and why you categorize 1 and 2. Is it just different?
I think it's just numerically, just to keep track of them. So it's wetland number 1 and wetland number 2. So yeah, the numbers don't signify anything. It's simply just numerically. If we had 50 of them, we'd want to be able to talk about wetland number 50 versus wetland
Okay.
number 25.
That's why you did.
So
Give me in your key on the bottom, it references a type.
oh, the
214.
True, yes, but that's not the numbering, not the reason for the numbering. That's more of the reason for the coloring on there. So light blue and the dark blue. So a type 2 wetland would be a seasonal wetland. Typically it would be wet coming out of the spring thaw. You'd probably see it hold water for about a month. And then it would typically dry up as we got into June and July, and we saw a little bit less precipitation. The type 4 wetland is typically what we would call a permanent wetland. So you're going to see those on the landscape for the majority of the year, with the exception of some of the drier summers that we've experienced over the last couple of years. So they're probably going to be wet from spring and extend well into the summer. Some of them may dry up, some of them may hold. You'll see where it backs well away from the cattails, and you might have just a little wet spot with a whole bunch of mud flat out there. That would be characteristic of a type 4 wetland.
More seasonal.
More
surface water.
more permanent.
Okay.
Yep, more permanent.
Okay.
So would be a good way to describe it. The white blocks on there are simply just embankments that we would construct to hold the water in those areas. Typically they've got a 15-foot top with either 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 side slopes. We install an emergency spillway so we don't have issues down the road. But the intent there would be to restore those two wetlands.
So maybe this, I should know this, but I don't. If there was adjacent to property and it made sense to improve, i.e. tile,
Mhm.
and it made sense to go into this area, is that still possible?
Great question. It all depends. Depends on, will the adjacent landowners' tiling efforts have an impact, a detrimental impact to the habitats that we seek to preserve? Oftentimes what we'll do in those cases is we allow people to tile up to our boundaries and into the property, into it being, if you were to say from the south, Mr. Chair, so tiling from the south, going to the north, so putting water into this system, typically that's not an issue. If it was tiling from the wetland and then tiling out of it, so it would have some kind of detrimental impact, likely not.
But I was
But
going like more in, that would be able to, the adjacent would be able to.
generally, yes.
Okay.
But I will say that every circumstance has its own nuances, and we evaluate those through a lens where the intent is to try to find a path forward, some type of common ground that will continue to preserve the intent of the landowner. Obviously, the landowner has some rights and expectations along with the Fish and Wildlife Service. So usually it's a conversation between us, the landowner, and whoever the project proponent is.
So, Carl, so do you get to assess this difference so we can extract more money out of Fish and Wildlife?
Well, we don't directly assess Fish and Wildlife, that would be the
I was
landowner.
teasing.
But in.
I get
for, like,
poked and
the
prodded a
assessment-
lot at these meetings. It's okay.
For the assessment side of these, the wetlands would have already been considered as waste. And so the value on those wouldn't change whether it's in the easement or not, because our easement value is the same as our wetland value.
Yep.
The other lands are already not considered tillable other than kind of that southwest portion of it. So that would come out of tillable and that would go into the easement, so there'd be a little bit of land value difference there, but overall, the value of the parcel isn't gonna change drastically.
And Carl, my understanding is it's the county has the ability to make those determinations. Right.
So is there prescribed burdens that take place on this and you guys have latitude to do that?
Sometimes, but not very often. Typically, if we were going to do a prescribed fire out there, they would be associated with the restoration, and then it would be up to the landowner to determine if that's a practice that they want to carry on.
Okay.
I would say if we were looking at 10 different properties from a restoration standpoint, maybe one of those might see a prescribed fire. It's just something that, in particular, when we're having third-party contractors do it, we have to be really judicious and cautious, careful about where we implement that.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that they do it right from a safety standpoint, that we don't impact other landowners' rights or other landowner interests. So we want to be really thoughtful and mindful about where to best do that. And typically, Commissioner, where we might do that would be if we were to acquire an interest in a property that would have native prairie, and there would be some value in doing that.
Okay.
So,
Well, that is a great tool that, there's a lot of blubbering about what goes on there, but somebody
Yep.
cleans property like that and
Yep.
you get new growth and you get.
absolutely.
The polymers and all this stuff. So, something, there is a need to do
Agreed.
that, regardless of if it's
Agreed.
popular or not.
Yep, and we're not opposed to that whatsoever. It comes down to, generally, we have funding for restoration, but the funding from a long-term maintenance standpoint really rests with the landowner. What we could do though, and we do quite often, is if the landowner were to approach us and say that they have an interest in continuing to do that, we can simply authorize that through a special use permit and give the landowner the authority to go ahead and do that on their own.
Yes.
So-
Okay. Additional questions or comments from either our group or it appears there's a certification of the County Board of Commissioners that would be approving this. Carl, would you recommend that we do from your standpoint?
From the assessment standpoint, there is gonna be a slight difference, but in reality, this property has already been kind of doing some environmental practices in the past. I don't think that, you know, it would be in the interest of the county to deny it, but
Okay, is there a motion to approve this certification for this property, this easement?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
So second,
I'll second it.
discussion,
I've watched that property for 30 years. Nice piece of property. I know it well. Well, it's never been used for any type of farmland that I ever seen, so.
It'll help for backfill real estate taxes for him.
Yeah.
So it'll be sustainable for years to come.
Sure.
And it's a good process, I think, as long as it stays on the tax roll.
Yes, sir, it does.
all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So since you do have 11 minutes, give us an update on kind of where your department's at as it relates to Grant County and the surrounding counties and kind of,
Mr. Chair, is there a particular place that you'd like me to focus on? Land acquisition, management in general?
I can just tell you that when we get ahead of schedule, who's ever in front of me, I usually ask them to give an impromptu
Very good.
update,
Very
and
good.
you are now get the floor,
Can I
so I
be-
don't have a specific, so I'll let you lead us.
Very good. I'd like to bequeath all of my time to Trent. Be a good learning opportunity for him.
He's already-
He did well on the hot seat.
He already got up here once, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And so, I would say from a land acquisition standpoint, we continue to see significant interest in our programs. We are very judicial about which properties we have an interest in. Not everything that comes across my desk is given a thumbs up. I would say from a conservation easement standpoint, that might be half. We continue to have interested parties come forward with an interest in selling properties to us in fee title, where the Fish and Wildlife Service would then become the owner on behalf of the American people, manage it on behalf of the American people. We have many waterfowl production areas within Grant County. The bar for that is even higher. I don't believe we've acquired any properties here in Grant County over the last few years that I can recall. The general focus from a land acquisition standpoint is from the conservation easement standpoint. That's where we focus the majority of our time. It also appears to be most palatable with the landowners that we work with, from the standpoint that and similar to the Wellies, they want to keep the property in their family. They want to use it for recreational purposes. They want a place for kids and grandkids to hunt and those kinds of things. And so, so that seems to be the most interest. We continue to have a robust land management program. We do implement prescribed fire. We probably, I want to say, and it's highly variable based on the weather, right? So last year we were able to start our prescribed fire season quite early. We were able to go quite long because we really didn't have winter to speak of. But most years we probably have 20 good burn days that we're able to implement, and we scatter those across our highest priority units. And so we're responsible for 5 counties in this area. Grant is one of those. Grant, Douglas, Otter Tail, Wilken, and Wadena are the counties that we're responsible for. If you traverse to the south, we have a sister station in Morris that's responsible for Swift and Pope and 8 counties directly to the south of Grant County. So you might work kind of across county lines with my counterparts, Bruce Fresky, he's the project leader down there, or you know, on road issues or those kinds of things. And so
So I got a question, I'm gonna interrupt you there.
Yes.
So, it appears we're gonna have a new administration
Mhm.
in Washington.
Mhm.
Do you sense that that new leadership will affect the US Fish and Wildlife in any major form?
I think that we can take a lot of cues from the administration that's coming in, from the administration that was prior to 4 years ago. The interest of that administration really is to promote recreational opportunities on public lands. Interestingly enough, with waterfowl production areas, they are completely open to everything unless specifically closed. It's a little bit different for a national wildlife refuge, where national wildlife refuges are completely closed to everything unless specifically open. So 180-degree difference. So from our standpoint, I don't anticipate significant changes. We always see some changes in terminology, differences in emphasis. But I don't see anything that, at least at this point in time, I certainly think that we're going to learn as we go. That's pretty typical of most administrations. It takes some time to get all the players in place. It takes some time to have a new director of the Fish and Wildlife Service who is politically appointed to have that person in place. And once we do, we'll begin to feel what that difference is. And so I think, Mr. Chair, if I can hold that question in my back pocket, maybe when we get together, if we can, in June or July, I'd have a more clear response for what that might look like.
Jessica, so your vision, how we move forward in the next short term for this area, including Grant County, what would you have to add to us, for us?
So as a realty specialist, I work with the Wetland Management District. We're in the same building, but we are kind of separate entities. There might be some changes with the administration, like Neil said, the focus where we need to look at and what we want to work with. Recently, we've been talking a lot about pollinators. We really like pollinators. We want to work with more pollinator stuff. So that might be an emphasis that we focus on in the future. But we won't have a ton of impact right away with this new administration. We are still working to acquire easements on property, and we work with landowners who want to put it on the property. We don't force anybody to do anything, and we just are out there working with anybody who's interested in it. And I think that will continue. I don't think it will be stopped.
Do you have plenty of funds to do what your vision is?
We do have funding that won't be impacted by the current administration. Unless extreme measures are taken.
We should actually talk about that because it's important to, I think, for the commission to understand that the funding that comes for the acquisition of both fee title and conservation easements is not congressionally appropriated funds. It's not funds that would otherwise could be used for schools or otherwise could be used for whatever.
Not in the Farm Bill?
It's not in the Farm Bill. No, it's not. So those funds for that land acquisition comes through the sale of duck stamps. You're a duck hunter, aren't you? So you buy a duck stamp, right? So those dollars go to conservation easements and fee title properties. Not all fee title properties, but WPAs would. It also comes from excise taxes and import fees. And so, do you shoot a Benelli shotgun made in Italy?
Got one.
A lot of guys do, right? So probably had to pay either import or excise taxes to bring that in the United States before you could purchase it. So those fees all go into a fund. So it's called the Migratory Bird Conservation Fund. A lot of folks, so you have a migratory bird conservation stamp. A lot of people call it the Doug stamp. So those fees then are all generated. And that is what the Fish and Wildlife Service uses to acquire interests in properties or new fee title lands. So.
That's kind of a pretty good way of
Yeah, so it's not,
financing it.
it doesn't compete with other congressional interests or congressional priorities. So it's kind of, I'll just say user generated in a lot of ways. So, and that fund, a lot of ammunition also is imported as well. So, that fund generates anywhere from $100 to $150 million a year. So at the start of this last administration, it was closer to 150 million. It's probably down to about 100 million right now. It fluctuates wildly. So.
Well, you got about a minute and 35 seconds. Would you like to add some more, Jessica?
We are always open to working with landowners in Grant County. They're few and far between, but we're always excited to work with landowners in this county.
What would an ideal piece of land look like?
Honestly, the Wellies land is pretty ideal. I just walked it last week or week and a half ago, and the amount of wildlife that was out there was incredible.
It comes down to location. It's like any real estate, right? Location, location, location. So for us, we're always looking for the places that are most biologically significant to us. It really doesn't matter so much about what it looks like today, because it might require restoration. Maybe all the wetlands are drained, or all the grass has been plowed up, or maybe it's not very healthy, or whatever the case is. But it could be in a very biologically significant area from a wildlife standpoint. And if you were to look at places that we work in, we're generally not working in those areas that are highly intensively ag dominated. But we're working a lot in those areas that we might call the transition zone, right? So it's not the Red River Valley. It's not the woods to the east. It's that transition in the middle. And so oftentimes what we see there is a higher diverse use of land. So we might see grazing, haying, recreation, and agriculture all mixed together. We typically see more rolling hills, or the interspersion of small tree groves and those kinds of things on the landscape. That is generally the place where we're working. It's also a place where the majority of habitat is still intact in Minnesota. So if you were to look at a corridor, just think of through, we'll just go from Fargo all the way to down to St. Cloud. The majority of what we're buying is right along that I-94 corridor, probably within 20 miles either side of that I-94 corridor. That is what we would characteristically call, especially in our wetland district, kind of that transition zone.
Mayor,
Great question.
you're now 2 minutes over. Thank you for your, thank you for your presentation. Do I need to sign something
If you could just sign one of those, yeah.
for you to?
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate your time today. Good to see all of you again. Wish you all happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you. And if it's all right, I think after the first of the year, I'll just reach out to Carl. Do you do all the board, the Okay, I'll just reach out to you then. And I'll just put something on the calendar. We can get out, see some of the projects and we can take some dirt and talk about more of these questions that you guys have.
Thank you for your additional information.
I got one more question for you, that the stuff that they're selling up in the Boundary Waters canoe areas, are you guys part of that whole,
No, sir.
okay?
No, it's probably National Park Service, I would guess.
Okay,
So
okay.
Say hello to Passing from you, will you?
I will do that.
I
will
work
do
with
that.
them, I work with them once in a while.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm sure you could create duck hunting stories.
Yeah, well, we have.
If Bergen gets confirmed, you guys are gonna have, somebody in your court that knows conservation and things like that.
I think we'll certainly, the former governor, and, if he becomes secretary, he understands that balance
Yeah,
of land uses and conservation opportunities and for sure it can coexist, without a doubt.
Yep.
So, yeah.
no, I think you'd be a good fit for that job. I think it'd be good for you guys.
Sure, no doubt.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
commissioners. Take
See
care.
ya.
Next.
Some love for you.
Yeah. thank you. Environmental.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey,
I did send the commissioners the back view.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so exciting news that, I did write a grant for the body worn cameras. And, I was told in the beginning that it wasn't for little departments like ours. It was for big departments like New York. And so I was really shocked to get the email, that we were awarded. So, John and I are here to further the grant process, we have to accept it or decline it. And I don't have the paperwork. It's a federal grant, so it's very difficult. Nothing comes easy. So I guess to move forward in the grant process, I would just need approval from the board to accept or deny. So we can go into detail of what the grant was. It is a 50-50 match and it'll pay for the body worn cameras. They can only allow $2,000 per camera. So we asked for 11. There's 11 of us, including John and I, so whether we have one or two as a backup, just have one at our office just in case something happens. And so we did reach out to Motorola, because currently in our squad cars we are running. Well, yeah, I guess you can go into that.
Well, it's the WatchGuard system, which WatchGuard used to be its own entity at one time, but now they were bought out by Motorola. So Motorola is the vendor who now owns WatchGuard. So instead of looking at different vendors like Axon, one of them, we decided to stay directly with Motorola because we already have that working relationship with them. So we went with it's called the V700 camera. And it was in conversation with Motorola with the guys that handle these systems and looking at what our need would be for them. I decided to go this route and this model. So as Jen was explaining, this grant came along pretty fast. I mean, we get no heads up of when grant monies are available. We'll either maybe hear word of mouth, get an email or a telephone call saying, hey, did you guys know this style grant is available? No, we didn't. And a lot of times we got to act pretty fast on the application process, to even to have a consideration. It's kind of putting the cart before the horse sometimes because, we understand that there is some, some authorization that we have to have from the board to move forward on things, especially when there's, there's a 50-50 match that we could or would potentially come to the board and ask, is there a consideration for a contribution by the county? In this case, this is one of those cases. Now, we look at an overall cost of something of this magnitude for our agency. And, we could be looking at anywhere from, let's say, $40,000 to $60,000 for the complete setup, depending on what type of package we go with, whether we have a on-premise server or go to cloud storage, things like that. We understand that this federal grant, as Jen says, needs board approval to move forward. Now, with the board approval, it doesn't mean there's any obligation of the board to have to accept or decline the grant or accept or lock into making any contribution towards it. There's steps involved that we have to follow in order to be able to move on to the next part of the grant process. So, the meeting today is to basically have the board's blessing to accept the grant and then move forward to see what system we would decide on. I still want to have the conversation with MEI, with Sean and Darren, because they play a big part in this as well, as far as storage and things like that. So that's the basis for the discussion today.
So the grant, federal award was 22,000 and we would be responsible for 50/50 and you said 40 to 60. So
No,
help me out with,
They would give us, we are awarded 22,000.
we are awarded 22,000.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So they expect another award. And that's into that 40 to 60 range.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
And again, the reason that we chose, the V700 through Motorola is because it integrates with our already squad cameras in our car. If we were to do something different, we would have to update that so they integrate together. So, yeah.
so. This come up kind of quick. So when did we apply for the grant?
I believe it was this summer that it was open for like a month or two, or
10.
that's the project period start date. And it goes till the 2027. So we had a couple years to integrate, because there's quite a few stipulations, because it is a federal grant. Like, we had to have goals and objectives and, how we're gonna, see that it's in working order. And I guess just going back to body worn cameras, most agencies have them, and it creates transparency.
One thing.
So many things will benefit from it.
No, and I understand and agree with it. One of the questions I have, or maybe would ask for an explanation. I know back in August, we approved the courthouse security and we addressed that. Looking at this, there's 46 conditions, and I guess I'm just not sure why this board would not have been afforded the luxury of being aware that this took place.
Sure.
This surprises. I'm gonna just tell us about why we don't know about it until now.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't really think we were gonna get it, and they told us that in the beginning. There's another grant that's for smaller agencies, and it actually just opened up, and so they said, don't be surprised, like, this is the one that you should be applying for. So I really didn't think we were gonna get it.
The federal award date is 11/15, so I mean, it just happened.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
A little tough to forecast that.
Either way, we could have
Oh, yeah.
budgeted.
Yeah.
We knew you were going into this, 'cause I'm not concerned necessarily with this 50/50 grant.
as what is it gonna be ongoing for that storage?
Maintenance,
Yeah, you know, the ongoing is the one that winds up getting you in the end, and I get the day's coming when we're gonna have meetings.
And
I-
I agree with, and that's a little bit where I was going with the question is, we're into a budgeting, we went to the preliminary budget, and we're one meeting away from the final budget. And then we get the surprises, I just. In no way should it impact or cloud the importance, and I commend you for applying, and. But I'm not sure I agree with your process, and I agree with Troy that. It's never just the 22 or the 40, and so but I'd encourage more discussion.
So I did meet with John and Jen yesterday, and we talked about the grant a little bit yesterday, and part of it is that, yes. We're one of the last counties to have body worn cameras. And they're also seeing that their deputies are also starting to request to actually wear them, just for
Officer safety
option. So.
and liability.
Yes.
We also talked about storage and, is there gonna be a need for a server? What is that gonna look like? What is the retention period on it? We even talked about when the cameras click on and off, how much is recorded. So those are just some of the other things that we've talked about, with this grant. And then, me as being the new coordinator, I said, going forward, these are some of the updates that could be aware of, could let the board aware of or be known of, that, hey, just. Yes, we applied for a grant and here's what it is. We may or may not. So maybe going forward, that'll be the other conversation that we have is more updates. Those are the types of things that the board should be aware of.
So how are we gonna spin this into your 25 budget?
well. Like I said earlier, we're not asking for, at this point, we're not asking for a contribution from the county, right? We're not asking for the contribution from the county at this point. We're asking for the authorization to continue to move forward and to accept the $22,000 that has been offered to Grant County. We still have homework to do on it because of, we'll talk about the server being one of them. Do I have some room on a current server, which is our WatchGuard Motorola server? Yes, because I've upgraded those systems. Do we have enough room to sustain? No, we don't. So I need to look at, a bigger server, a standalone server for the body worn cameras. So it has X amount of terabyte storage on it, that's an $8,000 to $10,000 item in itself.
What's the cost difference between cloud storage and physical?
Well,
You're gonna have to continually replace the server, right?
well, so. And this is where we talked earlier about the anywhere from, let's say $40,000 to $60,000, we could be looking at. And we're again exploring all options available to us through Motorola. So if we go with,
And that, that's maybe not a relevant question for today's proceedings, or
Right.
are we going forward?
yes. There's
That's something we can look at.
right, there's different costs associated with the variations of how we would store it.
When you have the physical server, it's not just that, it's now we've gotta have someone working with it, and we're gonna have to transfer all the data when you get a different one, and you're upgrading where ideally with the cloud is you're putting it there and it's there.
Right, but I'm not. I won't say anything more about cloud storage.
Right, we have a consultant that will give us their opinion of whether or not it's, yep.
Right,
So help me out a little more, on the idea what you're asking today. Was that we approved the acceptance of the 22,000. Help us.
Well, we
with the
can-
idea that
We hit through 27 to spend the federal money. So ideally, we're gonna approve going forward today, and we can get it into the budget for 26 is when you would have an implementation. Or the latter half of 25, so you only have half a year where you're,
That's kind of what I was getting at, the timing, and so we're not looking at this coming. And then wondering how the budget is.
Correct.
Is there a motion to accept the grant?
so,
The second,
Second,
additional discussion?
Yes, I got a question for you. Now this, when you guys pull people over, do you have people that will put their camera up?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so then this, you're covering your butt by trying to, if you wanted to try to get some of their footage for a court case or something like that, you'd have to draw it from the person that you're arresting or interviewing or investigating or something like that. This way, we have our own system. It takes care of that. We don't have to rely on the general public to get it off their phone.
Well, it's a redundant system is what it is because of the squad cameras that are already in the squads. There's multiple lenses on our current squad cameras that pick up wide angles, zoomed in angles of traffic stops. The deputies are all microphoned, so the voice recording is all there as far as what has happened.
Okay,
A lot of the interaction between the deputy that's made the traffic stop and the driver and or passenger of the vehicle is all recorded because it's all there in front of you. This is just another layer. Like you said, Bill, we pull people over and the cell phones right out the window right away,
right? Well,
recording.
you're seeing them on our
Yeah,
phone.
recording your approach and why'd you pull me over and whatever the case is.
And not only traffic stops, but even
Yes.
just going to calls at a house, if
Domestics.
it's not. If you're not parked in front of it, you're not gonna get it. That's why.
I
the
mean,
body
right.
cameras.
Our
Pick up
microphones,
everything.
our microphones, without compromising anything, do have quite a reach, for the, in squad cameras. So if I'm away from my squad car and there's nothing of video value other than the camera recording the front of the house, the microphone is still recording. And like I said, without compromising our system, we always have that voice recording going on, but to have that video and audio directly right here, on those deputies, it's a huge thing. I never, we had this discussion yesterday and I never thought I'd see the day, to be honest with you, that, we have our deputies coming to us and says, can we please get cameras? Can we please have body worn cameras to wear? I never thought I'd see that. Because people are, everybody these days is so worried about everybody else, right? Deputies are worried about themselves or deputies are worried about that person or what they say or do. But, it just goes to show me too that, we have professionals out there that want that recording, want that available, if need be, to show that, we are doing the right thing. And we're trying to protect ourselves, trying to protect the persons that we're called to, and also trying to protect the county overall too. And, I give the guys and gals a lot of credit for that.
Other discussion?
Well, it probably get rid of the gray area versus inadmissible versus admissible. Right? It's either yes or it's a no. It's not a gray anymore when you got a body camera.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times the cars ain't gonna pick up everything, right? If they're off at a, at least it covers our butt,
Yeah.
in my opinion, for liability.
Yeah, officer liability, but it's.
What's that worth? What's that worth
I
in
don't
today's
know that you
world?
can put a price tag on that.
Correct.
And, we can also use these for training. We can replay a video and we can, kind of critique like, okay, what could we have done better here? But, and everybody acts better on camera and, I believe our guys and gals are Grant County's finest and I think it'll just be very good for everybody.
So once again, I commend you for the leadership and applying for the grant. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Did you, want to have any other discussion with the courthouse security grant?
Other than if you have, you've got 8 minutes,
Yep, so.
and you gotta use it.
I think the email that I received It says that we were awarded the $13,143. It will require electronic signature from the grantee to execute the agreement. Please send me the names and email addresses of whom the agreement should be sent to. Also, the agreement requires the grantee identify an authorized representative. And so we need to send her that name as well.
So,
And that should be coming this week.
yeah, so we had that conversation a little bit yesterday too with Carl, and so, although Jen is the one that wrote the grant for the courthouse security committee, you know, we don't have, being that we're across the parking lot, we don't have a lot to do with the courthouse itself. So it seemed logical that somebody other than one of us be the grantee. Like, is it, you know, is it Grant County as a whole? Is it you, Ken, as the board chair, or is it, you know, Carl as the?
I see on this one, you have Chad as the official entity.
That's because the federal grant goes through
The auditor.
the auditor's office.
So would it make sense, it should either be the coordinator or Chad, I would say, and you have a recommendation, Carl?
I had stated yesterday that I would be willing to be the designee on that.
The grantee, but then
Grantee.
who would be the authorized representative?
I'll make a motion that Carl is both.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I mean, if there's any, you know, the paperwork and everything, is one part, you know, if there's anything else that, you know, that we can help out with, certainly willing to help out with.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna have to be some coordination now with our courts. Some rules and everything written, with the courthouse security, group. As well as how we're gonna operate, because the part of this grant is for that walk-through metal detector.
Yeah.
so if I may, Carl, we had a motion for that piece. Is that also, or is it gonna be a separate motion to accept the grant, or can that be together?
I included accepting the grant in my motion.
Okay,
I'm fine with it.
and that was the second?
Sure.
Now some additional, thank you, additional discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I do think that we should schedule a meeting with our committee. Yeah.
So. You got 5 minutes. You've now been in your new law enforcement center for 31 days, however many days it is. Give us a little update on how it's operating and how it's fitting your needs. Any
yeah.
challenges or any
Well, our challenges are right now trying to stay warm. I'll be totally honest with you.
state
Trying to stay warm.
in the building?
Get a new one. We're
no.
having issues with some filters on the heat pumps. And then, you know, when everything's kicking in and all that, all those heat pumps are sucking air, then they start to hum pretty loud, so we're having to adjust filters accordingly. Right now I have three of the heat pumps shut down upstairs, and I just had Evanston's here yesterday. I sent a text message before we came up here, directing how things are gonna be moving forward from here on out as far as our heating and cooling system. And I best see results. I better see somebody up there.
So, within the air handler piece, the filters, or it's sucking so much air, it's whistling in a sense?
It's more than whistling. I mean, before yesterday, one of our investigators for sure, but didn't matter which one was working, could not even be in their office. It's so loud
On the west end?
on the west end. So I have to physically either shut it off with thermostat or hit it at the breaker to shut it down. And, just so we can work. Yesterday I thought, okay, we're good, because we replaced every filter in every unit. Balanced everything, got everything working as it should. I mean, the building instantly came up to temperature 70 degrees and everybody was happy, even her. And, this morning when I walked in, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Just howling?
Just howling,
Oh, no.
yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, so I know some things that can be done to correct it as a Band-Aid. I'm kind of at the point that this is not my job to have to do that. That's why we paid the money that we did. For these contractors to install the systems that they did, so they best be down here working on them. I can climb up and down the ladder all day long and adjust filters and slide one this way and that way and to make things work, but that's a Band-Aid. So, other than that, no, we have
It's a beautiful.
no
building, yeah.
issues.
Yep.
And, it's a beautiful facility. If there was anything negative about any of it, by all the people that we ran through in the last month, it sure is bland. Inside.
Oh, inside?
Yep, I mean, the comments about the outside are just fantastic, right? But,
Like the blue and beige, I think. that's
yeah,
the
but
one.
I think the entryway is one thing, but you know, once you get into the working spaces. Down the hallways in our offices and Sally Port and processing, you know, all the walls are one color. You know, there's only 3 colors in that whole entire building, believe it or not. Painted colors, and somebody's, you know, people said, oh, it sure is bland. Well, it's not, it's to work, yeah, it doesn't have to be, yeah. But no, other than that, it's just absolutely fantastic.
So
Yeah.
you anticipate getting some wall hangings, pictures, or something to brighten it up?
There'll be dandelions pretty quick.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, people bring in stuff, you know, it's up to, you know, if whoever got their individual offices, however they wanna decorate and, you know, we got a couple of our dispatchers that love decorating, so they're bringing in stuff for Christmas and we've got our giving tree
Yep,
set up
giving
now,
tree.
in the lobby. I sent a picture, but, y'all remember our old glass in the sheriff's office in the courthouse, right above the walk-in door, was a big piece of etched glass sheriff on it. Now, we know that probably back in the 70s, you know, is probably when that was installed, when Ed Williams had moved over there. But it's etched, it's not a decal or anything like that, and knowing that glass was gonna come out, I had made the comment to Jeff and Radford and also talked to the guys from Alex Glass and Glazing that I want that piece of glass. I don't want that destroyed because everything else would have been tossed. So I was able to grab that. And I told Jason Morris from AP what my intent was on that I was gonna build some type of frame, shadow box, and either hang it on a wall or hang it from the ceiling as an old part of the courthouse law enforcement center, bringing it over to the new. Well, Jason had taken it from me last Friday and built a shadow box for it and delivered it yesterday. He was here doing some work. So we were quick to hang that up in the lobby now. So if any of you have time, I encourage you to stop up because
Looks really good.
it's pretty darn nice that he did that for us.
So it's less bland today than it was 2 days ago?
It's less bland today, yeah. The lobby's not the issue, but it doesn't need to be, it doesn't have to be anything fancy beyond those doors.
Well, I know you spent a lot of work on this construction. I'm trusting that, I hope that heat and what goes forward, it works out for you, because you deserve to be warm.
That's nice.
So good luck.
It's expected, I guess,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm getting frustrated now a little bit. And,
Well
yeah,
done.
we'll get it. So,
Sounds good,
all
thank
right,
you
thank
guys.
you.
Is this our copy, or they want that back, or I don't?
No, they don't do that. Yeah.
Okay. Ten oh six, human resources.
Do you need copies of the holiday schedule, or if that's?
We had it emailed.
Okay. Perfect.
That's a benefit of giving them to me early. It's like you didn't have to look back.
Remember that. All right. So the first thing I have is the holiday schedule for 2025. No new holidays were added, so it's the basic, the ones that we currently have. I've just changed the dates to be what they will be in 2025. So just looking for approval for the 2025 holiday schedule.
Got a question. Shouldn't that first one be Ken's birthday?
It could be / Ken's birthday.
You can put it on your copy.
Is there a motion to accept the holidays for 2025 as presented?
Motion approved, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Second, or were you seconding it?
well, I'd put a change in there if I wanted. Oh, any discussion?
Who's got the second on that?
Troy? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Approved.
All right, thank you. So the next thing is just every year I come to the board in December for a recognition program, so, we did, per our policy, we send out, and the ones that have met their milestones get to pick a item of clothing. Clothing or hat or whatever they want to pick from our website that we have, and, in their, allocated, price amounts. And so those were handed out probably a month ago now, but I just wanted to recognize those that have met their milestones for 2024. So 5 years, we have Pat McGrath at the Highway Department. We have William Westrom at the Highway Department. We have Ruben Anderson in Environmental Services. And for 10 years, we have Radford Renstrom in Facility Maintenance. 15 years, we have Brenda Exey in the Sheriff's Office. 20 years, we have Chad Van Satten in the Auditor's Office. And 30 years, we have Linda O'Mara in the Assessor's Office. So I want to acknowledge their years of service, appreciation, the dedicated work they have had at Grant County. So I wanted you to all be aware of that. So if you see them, tell them congratulations. And there we have for 2024. So I don't need anything approved. Just wanted you to all be aware. I'm done now.
You got 6 minutes. Tell us a little bit about like open enrollment, all the stuff you've been, the annual stuff.
Yep, so
What's gone?
open enrollment is closed, and so we are, yeah, I've submitted all the paperwork to all the insurance companies to get those changed. I'm gonna have a meeting here, maybe is it next week, with Health Equity to have a kickoff meeting just to talk about the HSA and enrollment for that, because I'll be putting in all those numbers myself in the Health Equity. And so once that we get that in, then that'll generate the HSA cards to get sent out to all the employees. So hopefully they get sent out before the first of the year, so they have them. So that's coming up for Flex and Health, or HSA and Flex. And then, yeah, all the open enrollment was sent for health insurance, so all those cards should be sent out. New cards will be sent out in December for all employees, as well as dental. There was no vision changes, but, so yeah, we've got it figured out for January. Now it's just waiting to make those payroll changes, and we can do that. And we've been interviewing, we have a couple, interested in highway, so we'll be interviewing highway probably in the next week or two for a heavy equipment operator. Pat wants to be full staffed. I wonder why. And so we have that, and then still discussing the deputy recorder position, making a decision here, I would say shortly on that. We get that office fully staffed as well.
So you've had interviews for that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'd let you off the hook 4 minutes early and give that to Matt.
Matt can have it.
Jake, you don't need it. He's the talkative one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Oh,
If you walk slow, it'll only be 3 minutes.
then I'll talk really slow too.
Morning.
Good morning.
Almost doubled my, time it takes to get to work.
I know. I assume you got your letter?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I don't have anything for you guys to act on today, just wanted to give you an update on the County Road 52 bridge. As you are aware, the plan has been to design this project probably for a decade now, I would say, but last month I was at the board talking about how we were gonna close that bridge down to one lane and moving forward because there was scour underneath the southeast abutment and there were issues with it listing and everybody's aware of that. Periodically, there have been little holes opening up near that area, coming up to the surface behind the abutment. After the last moisture we got and the last snowfall, there was another hole that opened up this side on more towards the center, towards the north lane of the road. Myself, I believe, Ryan Anderson, who is the lead inspector for Otter Tail County's bridge program. He was in the county helping out on the Stony Brook Township while Aaron was out of town. So him and myself and the Powerhouse Commissioner, Bill Valley. We went out there to take.
Can you say it a little louder so we make sure we get Powerhouse on the video? Go ahead.
We went out to take a look at it and the hole on the surface was about a foot wide circle. Underneath it went down probably 3 to 4 feet and it was a cone. It was about underground. It was about 4 feet wide. Went down there with a tiling spade, reached down there as far as you could go. And you could push that in there as far as it would go and you wouldn't hit anything solid. So at that point, we decided that it's best just to close the bridge for the time being until it's replaced. So I sent out a memo to the sheriff, the school districts, and the property owners along that stretch of road, informing them of what happened. And I did get a call from one of the property owners already and very understanding about it. And currently, with the bridge plan, I spoke with Erickson Engineering, who's been designing it. And I told them the issue and they said they'll have us the plans and everything completed here this month. So we'll have the plans, we got the permits completed already. And we'd only need 2 temporary easements. When I talked to the property owners, they're fine with that. And the last thing we'll need to do is figure out funding. At this point, it's kind of up in the air. There's no bridge bonding right now. There is a potential come springtime for federal off-system bridge funds, which would actually pay 80% of the project. But we would have to apply for those and get selected for those as well. And that would come with additional charges or fees that we'd have to go back and make the plans meet federal requirements, which generally about 10 to 20 grand is what it normally costs. But as of right now, the bridge is closed and it will remain closed until it gets replaced. And I'll probably put out a public notice in the paper for this week, just so the whole county is aware. But that's all I wanted to call or stop up here and update you guys on. If you have any questions.
I see your memorandum. Do we assume that the sheriff's department would have alerted the fire department and the ambulance?
Yeah, they would be the dispatch.
That would be, so they're aware of it?
Yep.
Through the sheriff?
I sent you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there. So questions for Matt?
Is there any intention on putting maybe a gravel pile on each side of the bridge so that people don't continue to go over it?
No, that would be somewhat redundant since it is illegal to drive down a closed road. So if they drive down there, they're already illegal, so
Are they driving on it?
Oh, yeah.
they would be at their own risk if they want to. I wouldn't say they're in danger of major injury, but I would say there is the potential that if they're driving, it could sink and they could end up high centered on it.
So just to make sure I heard what I thought I heard. So law wise, you got it closed. Practicality. You're
People are
saying,
still using. People are still using.
so do we don't take on any risk or liability if people go around signs or barricades? Is it proper barricaded? So you gotta work at it to get over it.
You
Yeah,
gotta go through the ditch.
yeah, there are signs that say closed, and we are ordering more signs saying bridge is closed. But as far as legal questions, I'd refer to the county attorney for that.
Yeah,
Once we get the snow event enough where the snow gets too deep, they'll.
Short of digging a 20-foot
Yeah.
trench and filling it full of water, they're gonna get around it.
We're not going to plow across it or anything like that.
Once it gets full of snow, that's the end of it.
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I just thought the classified as cheap, so.
Any there's a barricade. They're gonna go around it.
Yeah.
You don't want to, I mean, when you go over it so you can get here on time, I mean,
I actually haven't, I drove down there this weekend just to look at it.
Yeah.
and
I know what to do. Anything else for that?
That's all I had.
Matt, do you have a rough estimate on what that's gonna cost out there? Just off the,
I don't have a good estimate based on the project itself, but I would say probably around the 600,000 range. It's about a 30-foot span. There's no central here, so it'd probably be right around that range. So, and with bridge bonding, it normally covers about half of it, so it'd be a $300,000 hit to the county. If we end up getting federal funds, then they'd pay for about 80% of it, and we'd have to cover 20%. So I'll work with the state and the legislature as it moves forward to see what's happening and where we can get funds and try to get this to the top of the list.
The cheaper option would still be federal funds.
Cheaper would be federal, but there's also extra work you have to go in and do with the federal funds. And a lot of times when they get these off-system bridges, they'd like to, it's kind of small for a federal project, so they'd like to get a bunch of them in the district to do at the same time as in one contract. So if there's other bridges in the area or in the district that would qualify, I think the state would like us to bundle them together and have one contract and use as much federal funds as we can.
Bound to be a few more of them around the state, so sooner or later, there's gonna be pressure to do a bridge funding better.
Yeah, and we're close to the Red River Valley where there's umpteen million bridges due to all the large drainage ditches.
Sounds good. Thank you.
yep.
Maya. Looks like you wanna go on a spending spree.
I am Christmas time. Kids want presents.
Yeah,
I did send out with the location and the jurisdictions on that bridge, there's only a couple of residences that really probably are affected by the bridge itself. Most of them you would take a different route, to get to, for the most part. Maybe there'd be a mutual aid situation where Elbow Lake would try to get to an Ashby, would have wanted to go over that bridge, but they obviously now know that it's closed. But anyway, so it's not in a terrible location as far as emergency response goes. It's not like there's a ton of traffic that you would go that way. Just because most of it comes from Ashby the other direction. And so, anyway, so that part, but that did get sent out. So just so you're aware. And then the credit card piece, when I started digging into it, Tina had gotten the limit increased, when she was here. I went to a training, paid for hotel rooms, that sort of thing. The concern is because I'm gonna have some training over the next couple of years, if I use that $1,000 limit that I have right now, there's nothing left for if an emergency comes up in the near term before my card limit is paid. And I think that's why it was increased previously. You maybe have history on that, but so that was just the question it was set at 5,000 when she was here, just requesting to go back to that just so it's there. I don't have any Christmas plans or anything for it at this time, but
it's a motion to increase the credit card limit to 5,000.
So move.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed?
I tried to stretch it out as long as I could.
Well, you got 3 minutes. So give us you've been in the saddle now, how many, 2 months?
Not long enough to get recognized by the HR lady, so, I got a little ways to go yet. It's going good. I did go to a radio course. Tina was involved pretty in depth with radio training for fire and EMS and that sort of thing. So I did go to the trainer course. That should go okay to keep that process going. It's either an annual or biannual requirement that everybody get radio refresher course. So we should be able to handle that between Josh and myself. We should have that part covered. So that was a good course. The rest of it, there's a lot of binders to get through yet, but picking away at them slow. I will be talking with the department heads tomorrow at the department head meeting. We've got some of the emergency operations plan. There's some sign offs on some of those sections in there by department heads that are involved in the finance pieces, all that sort of stuff. So we'll have to go through and make sure those are updated and signed and then bring that to the board for approval for the overall emergency operations plan. So that will happen in the next month or so, hopefully. And it looks like most everything is in place. I think it was mostly due to the recreation after the cyber attack that everything had to be rebuilt there. So yeah, that part should be going through and hopefully everybody's section is pretty up to date. There'll be a few numbers and a few names that probably have to change on some of that, but otherwise, for the most part, it looks like it's in pretty good order. Just needs some signatures. So
So I got a question, Climavision, and obviously a lot of the work that Tina and the respective people from the other counties did. Do we need to do anything to sustain that? Is that thing kind of on autopilot? And do we know, are we getting? I just know on Thanksgiving, we went to Moorhead and the National Weather Service did not show anything on the radar. And that was not the case in Rothsay, Minnesota. So where is?
So
is it working
think,
and?
no, so my understanding is the National Weather Service will eventually start using that information, but I don't believe they do yet. So I have to.
Currently, they can see it,
They
but
can
they
see-
haven't integrated.
Right, so they can see what's going on that, but they don't put it out in their information, so like they're not reporting on what they see there, but they can see it, right? So I don't know how soon that whole full integration happens. I do know that we were given access to it, so you can pull it, a fireman can pull it up on their, to check where the storm is at and when they're doing, storm watch and that sort of thing. As far as how soon that will be integrated, I don't have that answer yet.
Well, I
Could
don't
someone like us?
think anybody has that answer because the National Weather Service has to get the use of that approved to
Right.
publish it. So
Right.
that is a decision that gets
It's
made
a
in
money thing.
Washington.
It's a money thing. Yeah, so, I don't have that answer for you, and I don't know that at this point that just anybody off the street can just get access to it. I think there was
No, that-
something
that
granted.
is, emergency response
Mhm.
personnel were given access as part of the
The
use.
pilot,
Yeah.
testing that thing out, so I don't have that good answer for you, but that'll be one of those. That binder's low in the stack of binders right now, but yes, I know they can see it, I just don't think they can report on it.
And it's not gonna be the one in Wendell that drives getting the approval for the National Weather Service. They've got, Climavision is much bigger down south. And they've got considerable towers. It's gonna be the severe weather there that gets the National Weather Service the approval to use it.
Sure.
tornado rallies.
Yeah.
I mean, we drove to Moorhead to our sons and it was interesting because other people drove and they're like, I can't believe it. It showed nothing on the radar. And so I pulled it up with my phone and said, here's an example why. And then I was showing them about Climavision, but I said, obviously it's not telling us that, there was moisture and whatever caused that slippery highway.
My kid left this Monday morning and she said there was cars upside down in the ditch between Burgess and, it's just not
Yeah,
great spot, so. Yeah,
but that's kind of odd. We're doing what we can or
Right.
have. I mean,
Yeah.
that's nothing in our court.
no, nothing on our end that'll.
Is City of Wendell still getting lease money from?
That part, I don't have that information. So
I thought that was where they were gonna get, you know, so much a year.
Probably.
Lease on the
they're
town.
probably getting something for having it sit up there, but I don't know what that looks like, so. You know,
Okay, anything else for mine?
went over my time.
Yeah,
Apologize.
you're over your time. Meh.
You can bank that.
Yeah, can I, yes, 2 minutes, I got that on, I want that on noted, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Coordinator.
All right. The first item that I have is the resolution regarding emergency medical services in Grant County. This was handed over to Justin to review it. And he did change some wordage. Basically we took out as essential. So that is what's in your board packet is the revised version of what Justin had sent, and Dwight had approved that as well.
There, I guess we can have discussion after we get a motion to approve the resolution number. And I'll let Carl include that in the motion. Is there such motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Okay.
No discussion.
Well, for me, Mr. Chair, the word that I wanted to see in there was essential because I feel that these EMS, individuals running ambulance are essential in Grant County, and I'm hoping that, this will help, other areas, to get some traction on this and so that we have, emergency medical personnel, ambulance, available to the citizens of Grant County and the state of Minnesota well into the near future for many, many years. So, that's what I got to say about it. And then, I want to say too, that Otter Tail County now the board, they approved, that sprint paramedic, funding. They're the fiscal agent for that, money. And so, somewhere in 25 now, where there will be some paramedics, running around in vehicles and accessible to citizens of Grant and Otter Tail counties. In the time of need, there'll be paramedics floating there that assist ambulances and things like that.
Good.
So, and we've been meeting once a week on that, and so now it's gonna really gain some traction now after the first of the year, since they approved that.
So we got the statements. It had, it used to say HRA in the bottom. Now it said something else. Did that include the 165,000 and the HRA, or was that just the HRA without the same wording? You got your text. You don't
The truth and taxation.
know the other,
Well, you got your proposed levy statement, or your proposed tax statement.
right, but
That's your TNT. That's your truth and taxation.
right. But we used to levy for HRA. It used to say HRA. It doesn't say HRA anymore. It says something else.
I would have to look at the form. It's not my form. So we have,
You have yours, I'm just wondering. And I know they doubled the HRA recommend, amount. Did this include that 165,000 also? Or
the
was that
165,000
something
would have been included in the levy.
in the levy? So
Yeah,
that would
it
have
wouldn't
been just, what's the
preliminary.
terminology?
All the special taxing districts?
Yeah.
Well, and that may be, it may be different because this is land as opposed to.
It's. You're going your house number. So the
That one,
TNT is gonna look slightly different than your actual tax statement. because there's different requirements of the items that are listed.
We're supposed to be voting.
Special taxing districts, so that would
Yeah,
be.
that's-
So that would most likely be one of the special taxing districts.
Yeah, it'd be your HRA.
So that would be,
For him, it'd be Boise to Sioux.
okay, so will the tax statement show, say HRA? Or is it gonna say spec, and I don't, doesn't matter to me, but my question was, did it include the 165, and you said no.
No, so no, the hundred and sixty-five is gonna be included in
The Greg County.
the Greg County.
Yeah, so that increase would have been the doubling of the HRA.
It should be, again, that's not my
Yeah.
form or my, but I do believe that would be in the other special taxing district.
We have a motion and a second, is there a?
Topic discussion, sure.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you, Bill. Okay, coordinator, keep rolling.
Alright, the next item that I have is the Cooper office supply for the desks in, for the HR, the coordinator and the emergency management. So we have two quotes here. We have one for Cooper's office supply. And their total, after installation would be $8,484. And the other quote that we have is from Swedberg Wood Products. And their quote was for $48,195. The difference between the two would be is that Swedberg's also included a cabinet that would be in the other meeting room. And that, for the other meeting room, that was $4,380. So there's a pretty substantial difference between the two quotes. The
Just
Cooper's office.
Let me ask you a question,
Yep.
You said 4,000, but this cabinet says 1,425. DMV.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was for the delivery. You're correct. The 1425 is for the cabinet in the.
Which isn't in the Cooper's bill,
Which is not in the. Cooper's
but they
bill.
could have a cabinet, they could supply a cabinet,
They could supply a cabinet.
okay.
That would probably be roughly,
So what it amounts to, instead of $40,000, is a little less than 40,
instead of,
difference.
You're close.
so the difference in quality is gonna be what you see on the first floor in the courthouse. A lot of those cabinets would be Swedberg's, or the one that are in the assessor's office, where Linda, Matt and Vicky sit. That would be Swedberg's style cabinetry, and that's also what's in the treasurer's office. I believe they came in and did those as well, and that's what's gonna be going in the auditor's office as well, is they're redoing their desks in there. Cooper's is gonna be more similar to this style of furniture. So we're talking oranges and pears. They're two completely different things.
Okay. We're still in the fruit category.
We could be talking potatoes.
So we're talking laminate versus hardwood, basically.
Correct. And option number 3 would be is to take the desks here and just place them in the space up there. That would be option number 3. And then
Well, we own these, we'd be selling these
we would
anyway.
be selling these desks to social services or to Western Prairie if they so chose to buy.
Which they should. They should stay. When they move.
They match these spaces.
So
they're-
can Coopers have these delivered by the end of the year and it's ready to go and?
Cooper said they could have these by the end of the year.
So is there a motion to approve Cooper's office supply plus that special cabinet?
Let's do them separately, but I'll make a motion to approve Cooper's office supply.
Of 84. Total.
Yeah, whatever their bid was.
Is there a second
Second.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I think we need to get an updated price from Swedberg on that cabinet, cause I would suspect it's gonna go up, being that's the only thing they'd be doing.
Correct.
Yeah, I think let's get an updated price, 'cause I don't think that 1425 will hold.
But would there be reason to buy one item from Sudbury? If not, why not buy it from Cooper's? Or doesn't that match in that office?
Well, if they would've had something similar, they would've put it down.
Well, did we ask Cooper's for that?
I didn't ask for Coopers for that
Oh.
specific piece.
Okay. So,
I mean, this could end up being, from Coopers, it could look like a desk cart. And I don't
But
know.
we're gonna ask for the DMV stuff to be locked in there, and it's gonna be custom made for a certain size, and I think we're better off just going to Swedberg and seeing.
I guess I don't have a problem with that. However, I would, since we did get quotes from two vendors, I would say we should try to get quotes from both and then we can apply them. I mean, it's gotta work. I agree with you on that, Troy. So should we wait on that or do we, since we don't know? Or not?
Let's get.
I'll get, when I finish getting the quotes for the rest of the room. That I'll include that with those quotes versus part of the desk quotes.
Oh, we got something else there.
So then, Chad had asked me to bring the amendment to agreement to provide professional services between MCCC and Triman Systems. From what I understand, this is for their IFS system. That they're asking to work between our computer provider, CPT, and MCCC and Triman Systems. Would that be a correct statement, Troy?
Right, so Grant County doesn't. My understanding is Grant County doesn't contract directly with, for the integrated financial system. We don't contract directly with CPT. It goes through this Minnesota Computer Cooperative. Which, so rather there's like 26 owners of CPT, but there's like 30 entities in this cooperative. And the cooperative contracts with. That's just the way it was set up. We didn't do this after we bought it. It was done this way before.
So
So
do we have this now? I mean, we're talking $1 million a year.
That's for the computer cooperative. That's not for Grant County.
No,
it's the whole
I
everybody.
fainted.
No, Grant County's only like
Jesus.
20,
Did you faint?
there's like 28. There's more in the cooperative than there are owners of CPT, so it's spread out amongst them.
Okay,
It's not a Grant, that's not a Grant County contract, that's the cooperative's contract.
I know, how are we gonna spin this into our final budget?
So this is we already contract with CPT for this. This is the contract between CPT and MCCC.
So this all makes sense. You know more about it than, and
So, so the auditor's office uses this, the treasurer's office uses this, Western Prairie uses it, like, this is all the same system that they're using.
so is there a motion to accept what's the contract? You can reference the specifics.
Yes, I will contract the MCCC board ratification statement.
Okay, I got a question. Any new people coming on board with CPT? Is
So
there,
there's new counties coming on, well, new counties there's been a few, it's not,
like it was in the beginning?
well, it's a slower process because it's a huge ordeal. You just be switching all of your financials, all of your, I mean, it's not, oh, I'm going over here now and one day later you're up on board and going, what we're seeing more of is CPT is hosting. They're taking over so you don't have to have your own servers and, there's an additional fee that's charged for hosting and
Well,
you're seeing more of that than new counties coming on board because you don't change your provider yearly. You wouldn't want to change it every decade. It'd be a huge lift to change.
Well, it's showing in some of the language here, each entity added 50% of the yearly support fee paid by the new entity to MCCC will be added to Tri-Men's annual contract fee.
Right, you spell out in any contract, you spell out how someone can join or leave.
Right,
or-
so there's always a little bit of a, much like the commitment that we gave in the beginning, right, is about where that's at each time there's a new member that comes on. What was that price? 200,000 or something?
Well, this is not, that's becoming an owner of CPT, that's completely different than this.
Okay. All right. That was my question.
Cause your price tag for being an owner of CPT depends on your status. Are you already a member of this cooperative? If you are, and you've paid your $50,000, then your purchase price is $125,000.
Okay.
If you aren't, and you aren't a member of this, your purchase price is $175 because you have to join this before you can buy into CPT. It's a very complicated tangled web that we wove.
And there's a reason that it would be very hard to switch companies. Like if you're talking our tax system, I mean, that's a 1.5-year process just to be able to switch from us to Vanguard, and Vanguard is probably $400,000 a year.
Well, with new members coming on, you know, like CPT used to give kind of a dividend back to the owners.
Yeah, we just got a check for like $50,000.
We did.
And it's not a dividend. We're currently in return of investment, not on. So we
Okay.
haven't returned that $175,000 completely.
Just to be clear. Thank you.
So we need a motion to approve the contract.
See board ratification statement.
So
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Other.
Lunch.
I'd like to talk to the budget committee after the commission meeting.
Okay.
So. I was just looking at. I had a question. And the bills that we paid that interest on the LAC bond. Was that, I was looking for in the budget, but I can't find it this quick. Was that the interest? For 2025, that then we can lower our levy by that amount since that's in 24? Or was the levy figuring that in?
I would suspect that is your interest payment, and we haven't started making principal payments until 25.
Correct.
That's what I thought about.
That's
So
my knowledge. That's
back to my question, so the preliminary, did that factor in this payment, or do we have a $2,000 gift coming that's gonna lower our levy?
I believe this was. How did Chad state this? These funds were already factored into our budget.
It's a 24 budget item.
It's a 24 budget item. It is, yes.
So we're not gonna see a reduction in the levy by that amount.
Well, there'd be no reason to pay interest early. I mean, you're not paying any principal. It's solid interest payment. You don't have to pay that early.
The other item is that, the Commissioner of Revenue is gonna be, looking at the letter that we had written, that Ken had signed, about whether he's gonna grant an extension for me to continue to be the assessor coordinator. So that is gonna be done here at about 11 o'clock. is when that meeting's done.
If he doesn't grant it, is he coming out to do the assessor duties?
The Commissioner of Revenue?
Yeah.
That would be a great question for me. Actually, he's not licensed, so he would not be able to take the position.
I mean, that's the response email, right? If he says no, well, the board asked, are you gonna come out?
Yeah, you're next.
You're not anticipating a no, are you?
I never know what to expect.
Okay.
So you're actually meeting with the commissioner?
No, John Clockseam, the property tax division director,
Okay,
and then Justin Masmussen, and then Lisa Wills, she's our representative, will all be. So they're down in Minneapolis today in his office. I'm guessing they're there now.
so is that, you have anything more?
Nope, that's all.
I got just a follow-up to Troy's comment about the cloud and this continually be investing in servers. And I don't know enough about it other than I find it hard to believe that larger entities are continuing to invest in servers at huge dollars. Are we at a point where we need to, this cloud business, that we gotta look at that? Help me out, someone that's knows more about it. Troy.
From what I understand, we are already, part of our backups are already cloud-based. So we are already using some of these cloud-based systems.
So in what John was saying, I mean, if we.
That's gonna be a further discussion that we need to have with Sean and figure that out.
So that may, to use an analogy earlier, you're comparing apples and potatoes. Because law enforcement, may be requirements where they have to have a physical server, or if they don't, they have to use this particular cloud-based. So that's gonna be run under way different rules than what the treasurer, pick your department in the county other than law enforcement. That could be under way different rules as far as so they may have to have a server that is way above and beyond the cost of anything else we would buy, where it becomes more feasible to go cloud-based rather than an action. So my opinion is non-law enforcement, we should be looking at cloud-based or, the CPT, the hosting services. Cause every time we have to buy a server, not only are you buying the server, now you gotta have it built, you gotta have everything transferred over, your hands-on, where if you're contracting with someone, they're transferring it for you, they're buying the new, you know what the price is for the next 5 years. If we have a server that just takes a crap, we're kinda at the mercy of where can we get one, how much is it gonna be?
We're already doing some of that with these cameras in these cars, right?
Well, I guess my point was, let's make sure that we're keeping an open mind and that our vision is such that the kind of what you were saying. I don't know enough about it to lead to this discussion, but let's not forget about the discussion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Some of the benefits of going cloud-based are that you have an annual or a monthly bill that's known from here into the future.
Yeah.
One of the personal, you might get 6 or 7 years out of a server, and the next one you might only get 4. And that's the unknown, and if you budget for it, and the maintenance of it, we're still gonna have maintenance even with cloud-based.
Well, you are, but you're gonna know, they're gonna. It's more of a known price, if you ask me. That's my opinion.
Long term, yes, it is.
Forecastable price tag.
So, anything else? And I understand the budget committee is gonna, do we have anything that the rest of us wanna leave them with? So cause next meeting, we're gonna be deciding. Are there any items that should come before this group ahead of your committee meeting?
I have a pretty good wrap around a lot of the budget. I've met with the highway department, I've met with the sheriff's department. I've gone through the entire county budget. Chad and I sat down and kind of discussed a lot of departments. I created a spreadsheet that kind of goes over, and I wish I could have gotten a bigger paper, but I was down here instead of at the other office. What I did is I kind of took each department and looked at all of the different funds that each one of these kind of manages. Just so that I could have a clear vision when I get a stack of all the bill or all the budgets, some of them aren't always in order. And so this was my way of getting them in order just to see how they all, what's the flow chart of these, right?
Yeah.
And this helped me. And then I also learned a lot more about like some specific funds that each department has and whether these dollars for, say, the NG 911, and that's just because the sheriff was here. Those funds are all sitting in the general fund. But the thing is that you can only spend those dollars on certain things.
They're dedicated.
They're dedicated funds.
Yeah.
So yes, they're sitting in the general fund. No, we can't spend those. And that goes with a number of these that people have. I mean, when you're talking environmental services, they have dedicated funds that are specific to certain items. And that's kind of what I've been going through and looking at and figuring out how do we spend these or how, like, where do we have money that's being budgeted? And when I'm going through this, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. And so that's what I need to
Not a
figure
lot
out.
of
What I'm still
wiggle-
trying to figure out
Wiggle
is,
room in the budget.
well, I'm saying like, we're heavily geared towards salaries and benefits.
A good flow chart, though.
It's about $6.6 million of the levy is wages and benefits and. So that's automatically factored into our levy. The pens, the papers, the little things only attributes, a little under $1 million. So when we're talking about, how do we cut it from budgets? There's not a lot of room to cut. There's not a lot of fat on them. And that the next piece that I'm trying to get through is what do we actually have in our bank accounts? How are those growing or what's going on? I'm still trying to figure out salaries and benefits and figure out where we're at exactly on those. Because when we're talking about general fund building from year to year, that's probably where it's gonna come from, not the pens and the paper and
The light bill.
the light bill.
Yeah. Sounds good. Anything else that should come before this meeting? During the meeting at 10:54.
Thank you.
So if there, I don't know, Carl, maybe if this gets spiffed up anymore,